So this week's on Mize Adventure, I'm going to show you how to take one of these tailgates on the FJ55 apart and change the actual physical gear inside the mechanism out. As we all know, those crack. I have found a guy that has 3D printing those, so I'm going to take you through that entire process of how we fix one of these. So with a shortage of the FJ55 gears, it's really hard to come and find one of them. A lot of people have found the brass ones, and from what I can find, they've been discontinued. So I was forced to rebuild mine, and when I get it out of the tailgate, I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like a kindergartner got a hold of it, but I did in fact get my tailgate to finally work, as you can see. So there is no really wrong functionality with my tailgate, but I just want to make it a little more clean with inside the actual mechanism. So we're going to pull the tailgate down, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So before we get started, I want to go through the actual product that we're going to be using. So I was lucky enough to find somebody within the FJ55 community that has started to remake these gears by 3D printing them. His name's Matt. I'll make sure that all his information is in the description below. He's charging about $20 for one of these. He's gone through a whole bunch of renditions of the actual gear to make sure that they're solid and they're all working. So he sent me 3 of them, and we're going to go ahead and put these in, but this is what we're after right here. So step 1 is we got to take this access panel off. There's 12 screws securing it to the actual tailgate, and that will give us a direct access to the glass and as well as the mechanism with inside. So we're going to go ahead and take that off now. So now that the access panel is off, we need to get access to the actual mechanism. The glass is sitting here as such as a roadblock, so we need to get the glass out of there. If your mechanism is not currently working, then you're going to have to do this inside the vehicle and do it manually. So that means pulling the glass out off the tracks. But if the motor is working or somewhat working, you're able to use the key switch that is under the vehicle here, as well as this switch here, which is on the driver's side of the truck. Push the switch in, and the glass will come out like this, like so, giving me 100% access to the area that I need to start working. So at this point, you want to make sure that you're taking note of where all the wires for the motor go here on the fuse block. All these springs here are going to have to come out, so you want to take reference shots of these, as well as note that there is 4 10mm bolts that actually hold the entire gear mechanism in. So in either corner there, so that once those come out, you'll be able to move this mechanism free. Then becomes the tricky part. As you can see, that it is connected to the glass rail. So once this is free, you can kind of move this out, as well as on the other side, move it out, and it should be able to come free. But you want to be extremely careful at this point because you don't want to break this glass. So take your time and do it very carefully. So this right here houses the gear that always breaks. So here is the motor, which has a warm gear on it, which leads to the gear inside there. So it's just straightforward with 6 bolts here. You're gonna have to just take those off. It should lift right off, and as you can see, it will just come free. So we're gonna go ahead and do that real quick, and I'll show you how it comes off. So we're just about at the point where we're gonna pull the gear out from the access panel. One thing that you want to note at this point is that once you take these gears out, your ears that are on the mechanism are going to spring back. So what I've found is that you take some vice grips, make sure that they're real nice and tight, and you're going to want to put them down on here. Just clamp them down nice and hard, and that will stop any of the ears from moving from the way that they are. This also helps when you go ahead and put the mechanism back in. It's easier to line up the window, and so that the ears are exactly in the same location that they were when you took it out. So these are the last screws after you flip the whole mechanism over that need to be unscrewed. So once those come out, this whole entire motor mechanism will drop free. As you can see right here, this is the pinion gear that is actually holding the actual gear into its place. So at this point, you're going to be able to push this pinion gear out. As you can see, it's moving very easily, and this is going to drop free. Get this out for you, like that, and then your gear will be able to move about. There it is. I know this gear is ridiculous, but this is what was able to make my window go up and down for the time being until I found somebody that was able to make the gears for me. So this worked great. I'm gonna definitely keep it just in case these gears don't work out, but I have a feeling that the 3D printed ones are gonna work just as good as this did. So if you're not familiar with what happens to these FJ55 gears, I have a great example in another cluster of gears that came out of another parts truck. So if you look down in here, you can see this one is not completely cracked yet, but you can see it's starting to crack there, and it's just because of the materials that they used to make these gears originally. So at this point, it's time to put her all back together. It's basically the whole thing in reverse. So we're gonna go ahead and see if this thing will get this window to work. So let's get started. Alright guys, so that's the completion of the FJ55 tailgate gear fix. If this video was helpful to you in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, as it really motivates me to keep on taking stuff like this apart and showing you how to do it. Cheers, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next week.